Snyder do it.
Snyder, yeah. He's busy with.
Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
Got a note?
Solid Waste Workshop Meeting, Tuesday, January 21st, 2020, 6 p.m. Heidrich.
Here.
Holtmeyer.
Here.
Obermark.
Here.
Patke.
Here.
Pettit. Here. Scornia.
Here.
Sullentrup. Wessels.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Solid Waste Workshop.
Okay.
We're all getting it.
Started. Time to start.
All right. Good evening, Council. This is the second iteration of our Solid Waste Public Forum, Solid Waste Workshop. So as you are aware, staff, over the course of 2019, essentially was looking at different improvements that we could do from our solid waste fund, the actual financial perspective, but more importantly, level of service. And this is kind of all in reference to the recycling market or lack thereof. If you recall, 2018, we actually looked at purchasing a single-stream recycling truck. We received a grant to offset some of those costs. We got the purchase order ready, got the truck on order, and then the recycling market really took a nosedive. The sorting facility in St. Louis was not able to actually take our material if we were to start that operation. Luckily, Freightliner, which was the manufacturer of the truck, had some production delays, and we were able to back out of that contract at no cost to us. So we were moving towards a single stream kind of operation, with the savings being specifically manpower. Our sorting facilities, our sorting operation curbside is very labor intensive. It costs the city a substantial amount of money. I also have some concern that our participation was kind of low, that we could do better. So we started looking into that, and this is kind of, I guess, the pinnacle, I guess, of that review. Keep in mind, Solid Waste Fund has basically three different components. We could include one more, but the landfill itself is one that operates as a revenue source. Recycling is one function that operates as a deficit that is essentially funded by the revenue that the landfill actually makes. Refuse collection, which is trash, it operates about break even, so we do pretty well with that. I will give you today, for example, a snow day, double route day after a snow day. Every single one of our employees in the street department, refuse and recycling, and landfill was working trash today. So we literally had nobody available to backfeed anything that would have happened essentially on the streets. Engineering was backfeeding actually with snow trucks. So we were salting streets out of engineering staff. So it just gives you a feel for when these perfect storm things happen, that we really do run really lean. So, and then the last part is composting, which we'll leave that off to the side. We have some concepts in 2020 we'll be talking to you about composting. So I don't want to get into that too much. So with that, Waste Connections is here. We went through a bidding proposal process. We received essentially, I can start here with goals. So if you recall in meeting one, and I call it meeting one because I had nothing else to call it. We set out goals when we went out and started this. It was continue the highest level of service for solid waste collection. Again, that is our number one goal. We understand that our citizens / customers, I like to call citizens, that they are our number one concern, and they expect a high level of service that we, people who live here, who we take that very much to heart. We love that job, and we do it very well. So that was our number one goal. Keeping rates as low as possible. So we actually have the lowest rates, I think, in the area by quite a bit. $14.15 for non-seniors, $8.50 for seniors, which is, running 10 to 15% lower than anyone else around us. Expand recycling. I don't know. I think that's kind of an interesting one. How do you actually do that when a recycling market is kind of is kind of a mess? So we'll talk about that a little bit. Mainly that was allowed for cardboard curbside. So Right now, the only cardboard we can collect is if you take it to the recycling center. We cannot collect that curbside. So and Tony can attest to this. A lot of cardboard that our citizens produce end up in the trash in the landfill, which again, cardboard is interesting because it doesn't weigh a lot, but it takes up a lot of space. So trying to figure out how we kind of offset that in our landfill operation. And reduce cost. That's an interesting one too. When costs are going up everywhere, how do we actually get that done? So hopefully we get through all that and we can show you that those goals were met. So you'll see these again at the end of this presentation. So this is the bid proposal process. We bid for recycling, refuse collection. They were due on November 27, 2019. If you recall, late summer, early fall, we actually bid recycling separate to see, okay, we'll keep trash collection going because we're concerned about level of service. So let's just see what the numbers would come back on recycling. I think the lowest we got on that was like $6 a home or something was what it was. So that obviously wasn't financially viable for us. That means that we would have to, either add $6 or somehow figure out a way to offset those costs. So we came to you all and you gave us direction to proceed with combining the two and see what we can come back with. We received 4 responses. One was Meridian Waste, Waste Connections, who I did indicate were here, Republic, and Grace Hauling. I think everyone kind of knows, who those companies are. Grace Hauling does like Marthasville. They're not as large of a company, but they do like Marthasville, more Warren County, St. Charles County. Immediately began evaluating the responses based on cost. So there's really 2 components here. There was cost and a level of service. That's how we looked at them. What you'll see there is those are the actual numbers. We took a set number of residences. Seniors sit on one side, non-seniors on the other. We gave the bidders those numbers. Now that will vary as people move in the community, not out, in the community, and then dumpsters as well. So they bid those hard numbers, knowing that they may change slightly depending on what our populations and things are. I think that makes sense. Grace Hauling came in, you see it there, $1,161,780. Meridian, $1,182,294, so slightly higher, 21,000-ish, not quite. Waste Connections came in almost dead on what Meridian's was, and then Republic was quite a bit higher. So that's your breakdown, 1, 2, 3, 4. Following that cost analysis, we evaluated level of service. So we checked references. So we ensured that, or we required them to provide us with references. I called every one of those communities that they did reference. They typically work, or Waste Connections typically works south of the river. Meridian works kind of north. Republic is kind of all over, which again the cost was a little prohibited. And Grace Hauling works in this general area as well. So with the combined on cost and level of service, we kind of shortlisted them to Waste Connections and Meridian. And then our solid waste subcommittee, which comprised of Darren, myself, Andrea, Tony, and a couple council people, Gretchen, and Jeff, sorry, thank you. We evaluated those based on level of service and those costs, and we have essentially came to the conclusion that we'd like to at least proceed with asking you all to give us the direction to move forward with hashing out a contract with Waste Connections. So that's why they are here. So that's the process. I can answer any questions with the process that you may have. Okay. So in going through this, Darren actually said, hey, we ought to come up with frequently asked questions, facts. So that's kind of how we're going to lay this out. There's way more questions than probably I could come up with, but this is a couple that we thought that you all might be getting asked, and that you all may be able to take that back with you, at least maybe to generate more questions, but more to give you answers. So will my trash route day change? Not at this time. We will evaluate in the future if there's cost savings to consolidate route days, but there will be no change to citizens how their trash is collected. That's important. If you get trash picked up on a Monday, you're getting trash picked up on a Monday if this contract starts tomorrow. Okay, well, Monday the next week. But so nothing changes. Now, as we progress, as they get familiar with our community gets familiar with them, we may evaluate the ideas, is there cost savings to consolidating a route? So for example, they can get through town on a Monday, let's say in 6 hours, 4 hours, set 4 hours for easy numbers, and they could consolidate a Monday and Tuesday. Maybe the Tuesday route goes into the Monday route, and then you're only running trash trucks Monday through Thursday with Friday being off, which I could see that being a positive for the community because you don't have trash sitting on a Friday, potentially. That may not work. So it kind of becomes that we don't want to look into that until they're here working, until we can kind of, work through kind of the kinks to get this kind of started off. So at this time, to answer that question, we are not proposing a day change or a route change. So take that with you. Nothing changes, just a different truck that picks up the trash. Good? Okay. Will my trash cans still work? So that's very important because people did invest in trash cans. Yes, there will be no change to systems how their trash is collected. That was very, very much important to us because obviously the public were running 10, maybe 15% are using toters. It goes up every single day. That was a huge savings for us, manpower over the past year that we've implemented that. It's important that when we wrote the proposal, we essentially indicated that we are a kind of a manual labor shagger operation. We pay for that. It's not robotic arms, it's none of that stuff. We pay for that operation, but we did not, again, want to change anything that happened in the house. Mm-hmm. So if you put your trash cans out there with your great-great-grandma's steel one that you just can't get rid of, you can still do that. You could go buy a toter can, you could still do that. So nothing changes when it comes to that. Okay? Will my recycling change? Yes, actually it will. Every residence will be provided a recycling cart. Every resident will be provided a recycling cart. That's a wheeled can, 64-gallon. We'll discuss if there's other options there, but it's a minimum 64-gallon. Every resident gets one, okay, where recycling can be placed. These carts will be serviced every other week. So it's not every week, it's every other week. The concept there is you get your little bins that everybody uses now. Well, now you got a cart. You can put cardboard in it. You could put plastics in it. You could put anything in it at one time, okay? Essentially, clean containers. But it'll be serviced every other week so that your space has actually tripled to quadrupled as far as your volume of material goes. But they will be providing those to you, and they will service those to you every other week. We will make sure we get that schedule, put out to the general public as we kind of go through this if we go in this direction.
Can you use a recycling cart for trash too?
No. No, you cannot. It's a recycling cart. So if you want to use a trash cart,
So if they're doing it every other week, why wouldn't they be able to use it for trash? Did you say they're going to be picking up recycling every other week?
Correct.
Recycling gets picked up every other week. No, because there'll be different colored canisters and we can't. Your recycling cart will have to be utilized for recycling only.
Correct. You don't want to, because otherwise people get contaminants in it as well. There's some other reasons why you probably want to keep those separate. We did talk to Waste Connections, and we can circle back to this a little bit later about the size of the can.
Yeah, we'll get to. Let me get through a couple of these, and
Yeah.
then we'll come back around that. And citizens will be able to use this card at no additional cost. So there is no rental fee. There is no. You can use it if you don't. If you don't want to use it, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit.
Yeah.
So it goes to the next question. Actually, am I required to use or to accept a recycling cart? Yes. At this time, everyone will be required to have a cart for recycling. Should you choose to use it, it's your choice. If you don't want to put it out every other week, you only want to use it once a month, it's up to you. However, we are going to be working with Waste Connections to see if there is a mechanism to where if you do not want one and you cannot handle one and you can't, you just don't want it at your residence, we'll work out something with them to either you call my office, call Tony's office, call whatever to say, we do not want this, here's your name, here's where you sign it. Either we go pick them back up and then we stockpile them until they pick them back up, or there's some mechanism where we can take those back, okay? We would rather not do that because, again, this is a benefit. And I put it right there. Utilizing the recycling cart correctly allows for the landfill life to be prolonged.
Right.
Okay? And your collection fees will continue to be minimized because of your effort. By doing this, you're helping your own bill. And they see value in it because they're able to utilize that. So if you don't want it, we can work this out with them as far as that procedure to take it back, to resend it. I don't know what that looks like at this time, but it's a very minor thing that we can overcome. But if you utilize it, it's not going in your landfill, it's keeping those costs down. Because remember, by prolonging the life of that landfill is truly money in your pockets. So you don't have to request it, you don't got to go to Public Works and get one, it's being delivered to your home.
Both cans will be delivered, the trash and the...
No,
Trash, you keep what you have.
trash, you keep what you have. Trash does not change. There will be no change in trash, just recycling. Okay?
And you can still put out multiple cans?
Yeah,
you know,
nothing
I mean,
changes.
Nothing changes on trash.
Nothing changes on trash. Trash literally is just a different truck picking it up. Okay? And again, we'll have more questions after this, obviously, but can I get a larger residential apartment dumpster? So currently, we can only accept 2-yard, the smaller style, dumpsters, 2-yard dumpsters. We can only accept those because that's all our equipment can handle, servicing those. So yes, we'll be working with the hauler to provide larger dumpsters to consolidate the smaller 2 cubic yard dumpsters. So for example, if you have an apartment complex that has multiple 2-yard dumpsters scattered around, but you see it as a benefit to go to a consolidated bigger dumpster, let's just say a 4 or 6 yard in that same footprint, you will now have that option. They're also, again, to the city's perspective, we would be working with them to see if there's some cost savings on that end as well. So think of it, you take 2 smaller ones, which is a lot of very labor-intensive manpower, go to one bigger one that can be essentially front-loaded, with a different piece of machinery. That's benefit for them, it's benefit for us, and quite honestly, it's probably benefit for the apartment complex users as well. To piggyback that question, what do you do with the dumpsters you have now? We would work with them, again, the hauler, to see if there's any sort of a buyback type situation, or we would work that out with the individuals who would want a larger dumpster. I don't have the details on that, but we can definitely brief you on that once we hash that out. So we did just get asked by a potential apartment complex owner, we wish you had larger dumpsters. Well, now we may have the option to have them. So, and that's just happened last week. Will my bill change? No, nothing changes on your bill. Your bill is coming in on city, basically city letterhead with your sewer and water at the exact same rate. You pay the exact same people. Nothing changes in your home. There's no change. Bill is exactly the same. In fact, the rate provided by the hauler is locked in for 5 years. Now, that's the rate, per home rate. That contract will fluctuate due to the number of people living in the community. So the more people we have, obviously that total goes up. But the rate that you get as a resident, there is no anticipation to raise that at this time. Will we still have Big Trash Week? Yes, Big Trash Week will still be provided 2 times a year at no additional cost. Operates the same. Everyone around Washington comes into Washington to do what they need to do. In addition, for a fee, citizens will now have the option to call the hauler for special big trash pickups. So procedure and cost, again, to be determined. So that procedure is outside the city's contract. So for example, if Councilman Sontrup, so I didn't mean to call you out, but you're looking at me. So if you, for example, have a couch that you don't want to wait till fall's pickup time, you can call them third party, set up a collection time. They will come pick it up. You pay
They will
them
send you a
direct.
bill.
So that
They will directly bill you for that service.
you'll have a pickup. You can, obviously there'll be some stipulations that we got to iron out there, but the city does not do that now. We can't do it with our manpower. So it's a pay situation, but at least you guys have that option to
Is
do
there a minimum of that?
a minimum.
You know how some people take a whole trailer and put everything they got out there and say, come pick this up.
Yeah, there would be some stipulations to that, and we have to iron out the details of what that is. I mean, construction debris, move out those. I mean, again, those things, those are things that shouldn't be put out there in the first place.
I think
But
we're talking about just the same
Couch,
stuff that you would sit out that we accept on Big Trash today. You could do it 365 days a year, provided you make arrangements with them for them to pick it up.
I
So
might
you
have
can do it on
misunderstood you.
do it on big trash times twice a year for free, just like you do now. But if you want it
Go on
beyond, above and
immediately.
beyond those dates, and you want to just, don't want to hold on to it for 3 months until Big Trash Week rolls around, you can call them up and,
I might have misunderstood you, but you said earlier that our rates now are 15% lower than others?
Yeah, I mean, I think Union is actually the closest. They're running 15,
Then why
40,
wouldn't
60.
we not raise our rates?
That's a whole different discussion. There is no proposal in this to raise rates.
Why no?
Now, there is no proposal to raise rates. Again, one of the goals was.
we got something to talk to you about later with regards to the landfill when it gets towards the end of this, but that's something to take a look
Keeping
at.
level of service at the same rate.
For 1
is
ton or
what this-
less.
And we could definitely, I mean, we're always evaluating what our costs are. So, I mean, that's something we can look into. But there was no market analysis other than literally doing some quick research on what rates were on our surrounding communities.
It's probably going to take 5 years to get everybody adjusted to this. That's why you got the 5-year rate.
My goal
Well, there's no change
is
trash
so that we
collection, so I
have 3 months for people just to adjust to it, and then everything will be just fine,
Again, there's no change on trash collection.
if that.
There's none.
Right.
Okay. Will the recycling center still be open? I think that that's to be determined. If you're getting your, all your plastics, all your glass, all your tin cans, all your containers, food containers, those type of things, containers, recycled curbside, cardboard recycled curbside, is there a need to have a recycling center? That recycling center does allow for the outside community to utilize it. But your citizens are going to have the option to do it everything at their home. I don't know why they would drive it to a center when you have everything there. Now, it does get utilized by some businesses. That's the other thing to think about. That's why it's a to be determined. What we could do, if that was a big thing, is place single stream recycling dumpsters at that location. So rather than have your bins, like your separated bins that you see out there, you would literally have 2, 3, whatever the number would be, single stream recycling dumpsters at the location where you could put stuff in it as into one location, and then we could ask them to surface that.
That's
that
similar to
would be a
what you
way.
have down at the
Yeah.
Similar.
grade school.
And it'd be to be determined on size. We don't know that right this second. Like I said, your citizens are paying in their rate to get it collected curbside. So is there a need for it? One could argue no. Is there a benefit for it? The more people you can get in recycling, the better, obviously.
I know my
Something to think about.
dumpster down there gets dumped on Monday and it's full by Wednesday evening. And so
And,
people want to recycle.
yeah, and a lot of that may have to do with, though, is that we don't collect cardboard and paper curbside.
That's right.
See, that should change because there's an option.
Yeah.
See, we just don't have that
They
option
don't,
right now.
yeah, they can't do that now, so that's gonna be,
See, everything, paper and cardboard are going to be able to go in these containers. That's a big change. I don't think it'll take 5 years to do that, but that's a big positive change. So that's something we'll have to determine yet as well. Again, that's not necessarily a deal breaker. It's not a critical path item, I don't think. I think we can work that out. When will this start? I projected if we were to get your blessing to move forth tonight with hammering out a contract, early summer, I think, is a conservative estimate, just so we can get the word out, be able to answer the details of some of these questions maybe. Waste Connections have indicated they'd want to move as fast as they possibly could. They like to start in quarters, and April 1st is the start of a quarter. So they've kind of indicated they would move as fast as we could move pretty quick. So I think that's kind of up in the air still. I know you all may go back with more questions and those things, and we'll have to answer those. So, April 1st might be a little quick. So I'm saying essentially early summer. Summertime would be probably an honest start time. So what will happen with the current staff? Darren and I, Tony, we've all been discussing this with staff. Staff is aware of what's going on. They were, huge resources as far as getting the numbers of stops. I can't tell you how much I appreciate just what they've done to get the numbers to get, to get where, to be able to get this proposal out. So in conjunction with streets, water, wastewater, parks, we're working with staff members to individually determine what department they would best be suited in. So we're going to be going to our staff members, talking to them. We already have started, we've talked to them, let them know what's going on, but going to them and say, what do you feel like your skill set is? Where do you feel like you would fit the best in? We've looked at openings in the different departments. We know what our labor needs are that are unfilled. Labor market as tight as it is, it's always good to keep the people that you have. If you start adding all these things up, now is the time to keep those people here.
How many people are you talking about?
We have, what do you got, 4, Tony? Trash collection's 4. Recycling is additional 2,
2.5.
2.5, and that would be.
You got
about
6.5, 7 employees, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's what, yeah.
8?
There you go, 8.5, there we go, I missed you. So it would be, and things we could look at would be, mowing. I know we have a contracted mowing situation that we could look at taking that back in potentially. There's a litany, there's an opening at the wastewater plant right now. There's opening in the street department. There's openings within the city system that we're unable to fill that we would look at trying to suit the skills up with those individuals.
We kind of slowed down on filling those until we saw where this was going, so that we had those opportunities available for the employees.
So it's not, and it'll be a collaborative process to put those valuable employees in a position where they can continue to succeed. They're obviously they're our number one resource is those employees. So we want to make sure that we do everything we can to give them an opportunity, in this organization. So, yes, sir.
So maybe I'm missing something somewhere, so I'm going to start over.
Okay.
Do we charge for recycling now?
Nope. Subsidized 100% by the landfill.
Okay, so we're going to hire somebody, and they're going to give out all these trash cans, or whatever you want to call them,
Recycling bins.
recycling bins at no cost. Now, we're not going to charge them to pick up recycling,
No.
right?
Correct.
But
It's in
they're
their
going to
bill.
charge the city for picking it up,
Correct. Landfill still pays for it.
so, and there's not going to be a rate increase.
Nope. What it is you go from an every other week collection. So remember, your recycling deficit is running about 300,000, what you're losing in the recycling operation right now. The landfill picks that up 100%. It's paying for that. It's subsidizing it. So by going to this contracted operation, we're able to reduce that deficit. Now, the landfill still pays for it, but it's reduced, which is a savings. Does that make sense?
So recycling is getting picked up every other week.
Correct.
Trash gets picked up every week.
Correct.
And you have a larger container to go ahead and put your recycling in as well.
So you're hoping that they put more recycling in a bigger container and less trash in the trash.
There you go.
That's a big hope.
Well, and part of the conversation was through the meetings was recycling pickup once a month. And that would be even more savings, but we had all agreed that if we start adding cardboard in your recycle bins, it's going to take a lot more space. So then, therefore, once a month was not going to be, in my opinion, it was not going to be enough.
People wouldn't want to hold on to it that long. It's
To have your recycling and all that, and then the option was two totes, but it just, in my opinion, it was best if we did it every other week for a cost savings with that size tote. You do all your recycling and add the cardboard in it for the best overall.
Is it, like on the plastics, will it be the same, number 1, number 2 only?
You won't have to look at numbers anymore. They all go in a bin.
That's good, because I gotta get them.
Yep. Put your magnifying glasses away.
And I have another one on the size, a little concerned about the size of the container, 64 gallon.
It's a
Big container.
It was 96.
It could be 96. I mean, we could look at requesting a bigger one, but yeah, we've discussed that.
Pick it up.
Well, my concern is getting it down to the curb. Like, I got a steep driveway and everything else. When those in-laws come over, they really load the
Put a
thing
rope
up.
on it, let it go.
But that's a pretty good sized container. I could see, 2 weeks worth sometimes, that could get pretty hefty. Yeah, am I picturing something, I mean, it's one of those big green things, right?
That's all.
Yeah.
No different than a lawnmower.
I wish I had one here.
Mark, Mark, I think the one you're thinking of is a 96. Those are the great big ones, and this is a 64.
I should have brought one
Two-thirds
in.
of that
What's
size.
that, what's that, didn't we have a limit on trash cans for a long time, 35?
That's,
Yes.
We did until we went to the automated, you know, till we, went-
To the toter, the wheeled carts,
Yeah, but
hydraulic lifters, yeah.
right.
so this is a lot bigger than the 35. I am a little concerned. I mean, that's a big container.
It does have wheels on it.
Right.
Well, I know.
You can ride it down the hill.
I think the bins you have now, and you got to carry them down, is harder to do than wheel this cart down. I personally do.
much bigger than a 35-gallon trash can. It's got wheels on
It's almost twice as big.
It's balanced,
Got
Right.
all that wet car.
ergonomically balanced.
Well,
Well,
this- my 90
trial run.
is not the only one.
We can,
Yeah, exactly.
I can round one up and bring it in too.
What, no,
it. Ride one in here.
Well, we'll look at it at some point.
Yeah,
We'll take it.
Yeah. Because I think it's hard to visualize.
Right.
it is, and I should have, I
I mean, the
apologize.
current
do it again.
tub, I think, is 14 gallons. Is that what somebody said?
24, actually. I didn't think it was that big, but
The current one is,
It's just a service.
our tubs we have now are 24 gallons?
They work,
Well,
So
we have
that-
both of them out there. Some are taller than others.
yeah.
they don't charge
This is three,
Okay, so that would be almost 3 times
Right.
64, 24, I mean, a little less than 3 times.
you know, and we went to the dollar numbers. Steve, you brought that up. You know, the biggest thing here is the capital expenditures. Our equipment in the recycling is we have to do something. Those trucks we have to do a turnover on the trucks. We have to buy new trucks. We have to kind of keep this thing going. The compactor was actually budgeted. We have to pave the recycling center here at some point if we're going to continue to have people going in, which is another $40,000 investment. So over that year, you won't have necessarily that capital expenditure in the next coming years. We've essentially took that equipment and ran it through its lifetime. And now we have to make a decision. Do we want to reinvest in a deficit operation, or do we want to look at something that could save that cost and try to increase level of service?
What would the cost be if this didn't work out in 5 years? Do we have to re-up into it? We have to get back into it, and that's $5-10 million startup for our,
To get back into trash hauling?
yeah.
We would look at, no. I mean, a truck,
Right here on me.
to pick up trash, your trucks are your tools, right? So 250,000 for a truck, 2 trucks, you're 500,000. So you'd be looking at, you could be looking at 750,000, $1 million to get back in it. Again, that savings is caught up pretty quick over 5 years.
See, we had this, some years ago, I don't remember when, but we went to a private hauler and it actually went back to the city because it didn't work out, because I don't know what the reason was, but it got pretty bad, the complaints and stuff, so.
The city went to.
I just don't want it to happen, what happened in St. Louis County either.
Oh.
And all of a sudden, that's a
Did we
big
ever put a
account, and
hauler
it
in the
went
city?
south in a hurry, and then we got a mess.
It's been so
That's my concern.
But ours too. I mean, that
I know
for sure.
Nothing's guaranteed, I understand that, but I'm
Right.
just putting it out there.
It's proposed to be a 5-year contract, so 2025 into 2026. So
What happens when people are using their recycling bin as a trash can?
I would have to defer if people are using recycling bins. I think their drivers actually. You
Tag
guys,
'em?
somebody want to answer that one?
They red flag them and.
You take the recycling
You-
bin that they're currently using, make it as a trash can.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have a problem with that. We know it's gonna be trash, because the one thing that we're gonna pick up recycling in will be the cart. So if they wanted to use it as a trash container, we wouldn't have a problem
No,
with that.
no. I think the question was if they took the recycling container that you guys provided and started using it as a trash container.
We
We-
would pick it up.
We just would not pick it up. It's trash.
Would you tag it?
Yes.
We have information we provide prior, and then we would also, our driver would kind of tag it if it is contaminated, try to notify.
We would also assist with that as well. Obviously, if they're having problems, we'd be chasing them down and working through that as well. And keep in mind, I mean, if we need public buy-in. I mean, recycling is part of this. The public has to buy into that operation. You can't, to operate that and to have a large contamination does become an issue. So
I think it's a fair question, but I also think that we don't use our green totes for trash.
That's right.
there you
I was
go.
gonna say, how much problem are you having with it now?
No,
People,
Well, we have some issues with it because we are very selective about what we take. So a lot of it, just the number on the plastic might be.
I would say, how many?
We
of
won't
those
have that
items are
here.
just questionable. I mean, it may just be an issue of a number. It's not, I think of dirty diapers or something in a trash bag in your recycling container.
Yeah, well, and that, that's not acceptable, obviously. So I think maybe the word to say, and actually, we were discussing this earlier today, is containers. So they essentially take containers. So what's a container? Beverages and food. Think about that. So bottles have a beverage in it, right? Cans have a beverage in it. So containers really is a pretty good word to think about.
Are they gonna take poster board,
Poster board.
like cereal boxes?
Yes.
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 It's a container. They will not take broken hockey sticks.
What about damage and thievery? What about what? Damage and people stealing them. I mean, how many times?
To the
do you-
cans?
Yeah.
Everybody's got
Well,
one.
I'm just saying,
Everyone's got one.
I don't mean nothing.
He's in a rough ward.
People steal trash cans.
You're looking to open up a.
How many times do we get a call, somebody lost their recycling box?
Oh, we don't, do we?
Yeah.
A lot, don't you?
It happens.
Well,
Wind blown.
are you gonna charge for a new one, or are you just gonna give them one?
We'll probably give them the first one free, of course, but I mean, if that could be a habit, there's
It's like anything.
definitely a market out there for them.
If there's a black market for, these.
Every container we deliver will have a serial number that'll go to that address, so if the next door neighbor decided to play a joke, we can tell that serial number, what number that house, what number that car goes, what home, so.
You said containers, what about like plastic bags?
Like a
Grocery bag?
grocery bag? I don't. No. See, but we can work through that.
Bag, that's a container.
But we can work through those details about what exactly is defined as a
You
container.
could put out a trash bag. Doesn't have to be in a container, does it? Like for trash.
For trash.
Yeah,
You put out-
that's
just
trash.
like-
We're
But,
recycling.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could set a
Yeah,
trash bag.
yeah,
out.
nothing's changed as far as how we.
That's the
operate
same
trash.
as what it is
Again,
today.
Nothing changes trash operation.
Now, John, you talked about employees. You haven't mentioned anything about equipment that we have now, that we pick up our own vehicle, their own trash with. And if I recall, the one's only a couple years old.
Yep. We'd keep it. We'd keep one in the fleet.
Bar.
What's that? 4, backup, just in case. We would also run brush route with it.
Plus they use it at the fair.
Well, and we're going to get to that. But Tony and I talked about the trash truck that we have, the newer one. We would propose to keep it just on a, let's just say we have to scramble and do something. I think it'd be good to have in the fleet. And then they could also run the brush route with it because it does compact. So we would just reutilize it.
Parks
essentially.
have their own.
That we would get rid of them. We'd get rid of essentially everything besides that one truck, is the proposal. And it would get sold on the open market, Purple Wave, whatever it is, Gov Deals.
How will we get rid of our trash in the parks?
Parks essentially they pick up their own now. We could, I'm not 100% sure how Parks picks up their trash now, to be honest, as far as the,
Well, they got
the
trash
cans.
truck goes around, picks it up.
We would still have a truck in the fleet. We could look at taking care of that. I mean, really, that's just an operational change. I mean, I think we could work through that pretty easy, whether that be a dumpster at one location, but I think,
I noticed.
I don't think that's, again, a critical path thing that we can't pick up trash in a park. I mean, it may be a situation where we have a truck that goes around and you throw it on a pickup truck and take it to a dumpster
Right.
at the parks
Or
department.
you use the piece of equipment he's talking about keeping.
Yeah,
Right now, we pick up and bring it back to the shop.
Yeah.
Trash, truck back there. So we
so you actually pick it up with a different truck
Yeah.
and take it to the trash truck.
and then bring it back to the shop.
So that wouldn't change.
There you
Throw it in
go.
the
There'd be a dumpster there,
And then we have like 5 dumpsters in the parks that we could
which would be in this contract.
I noticed on the website there, are they gonna stay with the smaller trucks instead of using the big trucks for residential?
Yes, there was a GVW requirement, I think 80,000 pounds max, for the concerns with the streets, having those large trucks. Now, they do run commercial, what's that?
Not 8,000.
80,
Oh,
80,000.
80.
So that's what our trucks are now. So they have a,
No.
they do run commercial routes now. So again, those apartment complexes, things like that, that maybe have those front loaders, we have those in town now with our commercial stuff. But the day-to-day routes will be ran with smaller trucks.
Okay.
For that concern. That was in there. Our alleys, and that's the other thing too, is their fleet, isn't one trash truck, one size. They have they would have multiple tools at their disposal essentially to pick up those smaller alleys, things of that nature.
This is immaterial, but there's not 80,000. 80,000 is a tractor trailer complete weight. It's going to be 54,000 if you have a tandem truck. So that's what the weight limit.
There we go. Yeah.
There.
It's whatever our trucks are.
Right.
Sorry, 80,000 is our fire truck code requirement on streets. Just so you know.
You have to have trailer and to have 80,000. It has to be 54 if it's on.
Yeah.
But to answer
Thank
your
you for the
question, it's not going to be. I'm not nitpicking you. I'm just trying
No,
to tell you
no,
that that's
thank
what,
you.
we're not
I
looking
was
to have
thinking
80,000 pound trucks in
our streets are
No.
designed for that. So
We do not.
We don't want
Wanna
that,
have that.
nor
No.
can we, could we?
Nope. So with that, I just wanted to kind of give you, again, this is a financial snapshot we've been calling this. This does not include any potential savings that we could work out. Like I said, there could be some savings going to consolidating the apartment complexes, the dumpsters on the apartment complex. That would be one savings. There may be others that we still want to work out. We do not have that yet, so this does not include that. But the current solid waste fund operates break even until 2025, but does not generate enough cash to close it. So it's actually a $1.6 million deficit. So it operates even, but it's got to generate $1.6 million to close the sale of the landfill. Okay? So in addition, if there is a need, and I say if because there's different levels of thinking here, but we would need to generate almost $2 million to pay for a future landfill solution, future transfer station, which is running $2.5 million. If you wanted to pay cash for that at the end of this, some may say that's not the way to do it, but if you want to do that, that's the money that would have to generate at the end. Okay? It does not do that. The current situation does not do that. It doesn't close it, 1.6, and it doesn't generate that cash for the next solution. Does that make sense? So it's, when I say operates even, that's really not true. It just doesn't generate that cash. So if you went through the contracted hauling with the current contract, it would generate $1.6 million of cash until 2025. It's a shade less. It's like 1.52 or something, but it's approximately 1.6. Your closure costs are then met. So it generates that cash to close that landfill cell that was essentially opened. It does not, though, still come up with that $2 million solution. Okay? Now, that's when we talked about going to once a month recycling collection. It would do it if we went in that route, just because you're running a route half the time. You're not spending as much money on that end. But we still have to come up with a solution after 5 years on what we're going to do with the landfill. And we're already looking at that, just so you know. I mean, that's a whole different discussion. Set that over here. But just it gives you an idea of why this is important. I think there was a question, well, why are we even talking about this? Well, that's why we're talking about this. Because right now, I cannot, if we continue to operate, I can't tell you where we're going to get $1.6 million. We don't have it. Or it's not projected to be there.
Right.
And well, just in addition to the recycling market is not there, so we don't get paid literally nothing for our recycling that we get. So in other words, our deficit that we run in now is potentially higher. The waste haulers have avenues for that recycling that we don't have.
They have a supply chain,
And then
essentially.
essentially, that's where the benefit comes in. So
We bail it clean, and then we go out, we bid it, essentially, to people that have bought it in the past. But that's not really a supply chain. They actually have, I think, contracts with people to kind of sell that material, which we don't have that.
Well, and that was my next question. 2 questions. One, how can we not be cheaper doing this in-house, as we do on other projects, that we do in-house instead of contracting it out? And number 2, I was going to ask about the recycling, but you answered that, because I was wondering why we can't find an avenue for
Well,
recycling it ourselves.
To answer the first question, going every other week saves that route, saves the manpower in that department essentially, okay? And everything that we collect, since we don't have the supply chain to get it to a buyer, it's not worth anything. I can't do anything with it. Where they, and again, I don't know their details, but they actually have a supply chain to sell it. There's a market for what they have. So it's no different
And
than.
that wasn't 100% recycling. The first question was trash, basically. I mean, bottom
No,
line.
and remember the first part, trash is operating break even.
Right.
Trash is good. We don't have any issues with essentially trash. That is a solvent
But you do-
sub-fund.
You do have the workers' comp.
Yeah, you do have claims with regards to workman's comp, with the issues
yeah, I
with those that
didn't
have
get
it, that we haven't even figured, we haven't even touched those numbers
Workers'
in
comp.
here with regards to it.
And the other thing too is, like I said, we had essentially 12 guys running trash today. Every one of those guys that was not in the trash collection fund is being paid for out of the general fund, which never hits a financial snapshot because those dollars never get transferred. Solid waste doesn't pay the general fund for those workers that were working today, picking up trash. Does that make sense? So there's these other soft kind of benefits that you have that are not included in that number. That's conservatives on the conservative side of things. So you're correct, we could pick up trash just as well. That's a fact. Arguing that, I mean, I think it could be argued that our level of service isn't quite as high with all these other things that we could do because we don't have on-call trash pickup like we would have an option for. We don't have that. But recycling is such a deficit because of the way we do it, sorting, A.
Labor intensive.
The other side is when we sort it, you're doing that to get a clean commodity because you think that would increase your cost, your sale of that material. But since we don't have a supply chain, we just bid it. We don't have a buyer. And it starts breaking down pretty quick. You're putting a lot of money out for something that we can't sell.
What was that? The other day, it was, you had how
In
many
this market.
truckloads and how many man-hours did it take? Or-
Glass,
It was something, it was.
it was glass.
It was a glass.
Yeah.
Glasses City.
Is it once a month or once a month glass?
What was it, Jason?
Twice a month glass?
3 or 4 guys, depends on, tampons and glass go down, pretty well half a day for each guy, time you get down there and get back down to it.
Right.
And how big was our last check?
Last truck, you only get about 6 tons of glass on there
How much
per truck.
revenue, Pam?
It's big, bulky.
400? Yeah, what check did we get cut?
How much did we get?
That's $28 for one, 30 for the other, and, 15, I want to say, for the other one. Depends on the color.
Pay for the drive.
They pay for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what I'm trying to show you. It doesn't pay for.
That's essentially part of our conversation. We're paying, the city is actually essentially
got 3 or
losing
4
money because
guys.
we're providing recycling.
You have 3 or 4 guys into the city.
It's
That-
cheaper to put it in a landfill and get more better compaction from the glass than hauling it down, same with
It's argu-
fuel and burning manpower.
And keep in mind, that manpower, street department manpower, not recycling manpower, because recycling manpower is running the
You've now
routes.
taken them off of
Right.
their duties.
So to Mark, a little bit more on your question, why can't we do this for the same price or cheaper? We can eliminate recycling, and we can continue picking up trash the way it is, and I think we'd be fine. That was my
We
urgent
definitely-
That would
question.
be an.
That $2 million deficit would go away in a heartbeat. That
Understand what I'm saying? That's-
we'd have.
Recycling is a question here. We're
Well, it
losing
is-
money recycling.
And I
every day.
guess there's no market for just strictly recycling.
And the landfill.
There's not with the way that we do it.
I mean us
I
sub
don't-
it out.
He tried that.
We
We
tried.
tried
We
that.
tried that.
With that,
It was
When we went out for
For the
original
bids.
bids, they came back with bids that were not, I mean,
The lowest I think was $675 a month. So if you think about that, you're paying 14, 15, but 675. You got to add that to your 14,
Right.
15, so your trash rate would go up to basically $21.
Well, recycling has just changed, and even when you look at the national statistics on it, not all plastics,
are being
we
recycled.
should all be, to quote what you said this
That was
morning. I don't
essentially
wanna
my
say
first
this
question,
was
Marcus.
my-
Why can't we do this the same? And it ends up being, they can do trash and recycling together and make it a business, and then therefore make it advantageous for both of us. That's really how it works out. And not to mention the fact that if we eliminate recycling in the city, we talked about having substations. Put dumpsters at Phoenix Park, put dumpsters around town in different spots. would people utilize that and not do curbside pickup anymore? Yeah, that's definitely an option. The haulers definitely, but is that what you want to do for your citizens as far as recycling goes? Correct me if I'm wrong, John, but that was an option.
It's a substantial savings.
Substantial savings, but is it better? Probably
But your
not.
level of
Run out of
service.
landfill quicker. because
And then
people are just gonna
Yeah,
throw it
because
who don't
more people are
recycle,
going to be
that's right.
throwing stuff away.
Now it's all in your trash, and then that essentially is the biggest.
And another thing, I mean, when you're, the landfill is the difference here from us and other communities. That's the kind of commodity differences. 20% of the trash you generate here in town goes in the landfill. The remaining 80 gets sold to the outside market. So who's the outside market? Well, they are somewhat the outside market if they utilize our landfill, but it's the surrounding community. So anything you could keep out of that landfill that isn't yours helps you on that financial side. Because you're subsidizing, it's paid for. You're giving it away to your citizens, which is what, it's their commodity.
Can I ask you guys, how many cities are you doing that for now? And how's it working out?
If you guys could come, one of you guys could come up. So
Who gets the shorts, bro?
They do yearly. Some of the cities, so you're wanting to know some of the cities that they currently haul, pick
Serve.
up for, serve?
Yeah,
And recycling.
okay. In the area, we do Union, St. Clair, Eureka, Pacific,
Herculaneum.
Herculaneum. We go all the way up.
Festus.
Festus. We go all the way up into De Pere, Creve Coeur. We do 4 of the counties now.
We do,
For the-
we
for
do
the-
five of the county districts.
5 of the county districts. We service over 100,000 customers.
We do Wildwood, Eureka.
You have enough manpower to continue to do Washington?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I imagine it's working out well for you.
No, I'll be honest with you, it's been a tough year. The recycling situation, just like the mayor said, it's been tough. But we're kind of insulated a little bit just because of some of the relationships we've had in place. We run our own MRF in Kansas, which is where your recycling would go. It would get baled and sent to our MRF in Kansas. We have long-lasting relationships with paper dealers, plastic dealers. We have great relationship with the glass company. So we're allowed to, we have just great relationships in place to be able to kind of subsidize us through the highs and lows of the commodity market right now. This last year was tough, but even just in this past year, some cardboards come up a little bit. It kind of fluctuates right now. It's going to fluctuate for probably the next 6 to 18 months, and then it'll probably kind of even out and probably get to a point where it's a little bit more manageable. But it's probably never going to be to what it was as far as the recycling market is. That's why when you went out and looked for just recycling prices, it's exactly what we said. We kind of need both to kind of subsidize each other because of the equipment's used in different places. So when you go out and you buy brand new trucks of 200,000 to 300,000, you want to be sure those are being used at 8 to 10 hours a day, whether it's in this city or 3 cities combined. So that's how we kind of need it to be a package deal to make it work out for us as well. Plus then the fact that we're able to sell the commodities and make some money off of them as well.
Weather would never be a factor since we started. I think it's only 2 times in the history of the trash pickup that they missed a route.
That was one question that did come up. It very seldom gets to that point. Safety is our only thing we care about in our company, is the safety of our communities that we're in and our people. There could be those occasions where if we weren't able to pick up that day, we would have to pick up the next day. But those times are just so far few in between. I don't think it would ever be an issue.
the other thing to keep in mind, that part of the answer, Joe, was that they would also be available on Saturday pickups in those situations where that occurred.
You do holidays?
What's that?
Holidays?
No, we do not do holidays.
We do the day after. So if the holiday lands on a Wednesday, everything gets pushed back a day after that Wednesday. So then we pick up trash Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Or like we would do a double route.
Yeah.
Like we did a double route today, because we don't do Saturdays.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you used everybody we had.
That's exactly
Exactly right, that's right. Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, we just happen to have had a couple times this year already where we've chosen not to run. Just
Our guys didn't want to work Saturdays either.
No.
I mean, you know what I mean? So,
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
I definitely understand that.
but I think, I think, to be safe to say, I think we will not be having this once every 50-year situation is the only time
Yeah.
where you don't get picked up. I think you are going to have those situations. And maybe, and to be quite honest, as we discussed it, we might have been putting,
Yes.
that's not something necessarily to be proud of, because I don't know how many times we had guys out there that maybe we shouldn't have.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't know that that's necessarily something to be proud
Will
of.
there be a way to inform, our people, it is gonna be a change, and just like we're saying, knowing that if for some reason you don't make it, does mine come the next day, or is it mine coming Saturday, blah, 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 and what can we put in there, and so forth? Will there be a public kind of thing besides?
Tell us about your plan.
Your marketing.
Tell us about your marketing plan a little
Sure,
bit.
so what we typically do is, obviously, we work hand in hand with the city and what their resources are. So there's social media, there's, Facebook pages, but not everyone's on that. We also do robocalls, so when there's a change in our service or something, we'll do a robocall and say, this week's a holiday week, Thanksgiving, if your pickup day, it'll be pushed back a day. We also attach, like when we deliver your toters, we attach flyers to the toter, to an informational flyer. It's a great way, people get stuff in the mail and they don't look at it, right? But if something's hanging on a toter that's bright pink, ooh, what's this? So, we'll do that kind of communication with it. But yeah, we've got all kinds of different avenues that just what works best for the city. Wildwood, they have a huge marketing social media group that everything goes on to that, but that might not work in Herculaneum, and so it's just, we really tailor it to the city.
We could also use our Code Red system as a way to go ahead and get the word out.
And you were also talking about, in one of our conversations about, if we were to decide to move forward now, you would probably have a presence at some of our upcoming festivals and
Yeah.
fairs and events to kind of
So people-
introduce you and your team to the community,
Yeah.
become familiar with our community, be part of our community.
Right, set up like an informational table, and, you'd be surprised how many people want to come talk to you about trash. It's amazing. But yeah, I mean, that's something that we did when we implemented Wildwood, is we had a table at 2 or 3 of their events, and they came up and talked to us, and, we learned what some of their challenges were, or things like that, and, they got to learn about us, and they'd see us all out there in our, shirts, and they'd be like, oh, your Waste Connections, we're so happy to have you, or, so it's definitely being part of the community. Ben is the district manager over the hauling company that would be hauling this, and he lives in Festus, so he's always, and he's out a lot in all of our St. Clair, he's very connected, and it's just important. So,
And to address your issue on the container size for the recycle, we could offer 3 different sizes. We could offer a 35-gallon container as well, that's on wheels, that's just very manageable. So there's 3 different container sizes we could offer on the recycle side as well.
Does everybody have to take the same size, or do you?
No,
or
I mean, if
no?
there are multiple contracts.
Okay.
People are allowed to call in up to 2 weeks before we deliver them. And we can just take their address down, and if they want a different size, we can give them a smaller size.
She wouldn't call that.
Could you bring a couple different ones by his house?
sure, yeah, absolutely.
Can I practice?
You can practice taking it up the hill and down.
I got a steep driveway.
Well, my mom was one of them. She's 90, and she was one of them that was saying, I don't like that big thing. So anyway,
Yeah, there's all 3 sizes.
My garage is full, man.
I think in order to go ahead and wrap it up and be ready for our next city council meeting, what we'd like is for the council to let us go ahead and continue moving forward with the contract with Waste Connections, and that we anticipate we would like to have that, with your blessing, we would have that available for you at the second meeting in February.
So we were hoping to do.
Yes.
Our proposal.
So we would like tonight to see if you would
So
like us
moved.
to go ahead and do it. Thank you.
Can we also put what they're collecting and all this kind of like in the paper?
Oh, yeah.
oh, yeah.
Like
We're gonna have a,
Oh, there's-
doing.
yes.
There'll be a
We'll have a
very,
marketing blitz on with regards to,
that's why the summertime start, again, I think is conservative, because it allows time for.
I mean, give people time to come to the meeting, and if they don't
they have questions.
have questions, or,
Yeah.
they don't.
Yep.
We can,
On big trash, is that gonna be our folks doing big trash still?
no.
No.
They would be doing it.
That'll
They would
all
be
that.
doing big trash.
It's usually gone before
Unless
the trucks.
it was like a call thing.
Right.
Well, no, even the calls, they will call Waste Connections.
Wait a minute,
and they-
I had that wrong.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that that's
I
clear.
had that wrong.
If it's a special call, if you don't want to wait until Big Trash Week in April and October like we do now,
Call them.
And you don't want to wait for that couch to be hauled away and, you know, you can
But I'm
make
talking like
arrangements.
actual big trash week.
They
The
would
actual
be
big trash week, they will be picking that up as well. Whatever the other people don't rummage through first, just like normal.
Half that's on left.
Yeah. What's left?
Any other questions or comments? We do have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Wessels. Any comments, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're going to be moving forward with discussion
Thank you all.
and come back. Thank you. Thank you all for your attention. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Make it.
Second.
I didn't make the motion.
We have
I
a
said we need a motion.
I made it.
motion by, well, I was going to walk away.
Tony.
A motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Patke to adjourn. All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? We're out of here for a minute.